All right, Amazon has either stopped tracking my order or something. Anyway, my friend brought me over a board, and this gives me some better ideas. Um, so, without having a board in front of me, it was really kind of hard to tell what size I would need. The package that I ordered that should have been here today, which says it hasn't went anywhere from Phoenix since 3 a.m. It's unlikely that it will show up today because if their tracking is accurate, it got lost in Phoenix. In fact, I may try to order something else also. Ultimately, actually, what I really think is starting to make more sense at this point is having maybe one design on a board, but the other one like on a socket with leads coming off the socket. And I'd like to be able to just swap out the Arduino easily. I don't want it soldered to a board if I don't need to. I've got a bag full of IC chip sockets. I don't think any of them have the right width to fit the Arduino, but they do make ones. They're just kind of not cheap, and they have like breakout things on them. So what we're looking at here is I was thinking of mounting the synthesizer and the Arduino on the same board. This board I thought would, be perfect, but actually, when we look at it, to get the pins lined up, we're looking at being right about there, and then that'll give us a breakout pin next to it. The other option is to just get a complete strip board, and like you interrupt the strips, you have to go in and cut them, which is a pain. The single dot boards, I don't think those are good for this. I mean, they can be okay, but I like this better. So with this one here, you can basically cut it off at that bus over there, the second bus, and we'd be looking at a board around that size. We could go a little bit smaller, but so the point is, we put this board on here. You see here, we have basically that much left. I think we could probably fit our synthesizer on the board, but I'm not sure. So let me go ahead and mock that up. Let me make sure I know where everything is. So I am thinking that there would have been enough room on the end here, but there's not. Oh, you cut this board off here, you can sneak this other one underneath that probably. Otherwise, you could just put it, wherever you're basically going to be hanging it off. Either there. So the idea was cut this off right here. Somewhere right there. You'd have your wires here. The Arduino coming out. Without looking at the pinout and all that stuff, this might not be the best layout to use either, because what I want to avoid doing is running a bunch of long jumper wires, because otherwise this design really doesn't make any sense. The thing that's cool about this though is that being able to put everything on here, you'd have it on the other side. I guess you could go ahead and put it on this side if you wanted to, but you'd have it on the other side of the board, and you would be able to run wires. So let me show you. So it would have it like this, and then you could run your wires. These other ones here at the very, very end, you can't use those. You could use them for other things, but so we would be using these ones right next to it. It's not showing up real good. Let's see if I can. So you'd be using those ones and then those ones. But what I was trying to do is just make this thing as small as possible. So this is why I was thinking that actually this doesn't make any sense. If you had a blank Arduino, you could solder wires coming off of all the pins that you need. Just Cat5 wires. And then go directly to each of your devices. So you would literally just have this board with wires going to this board and going to that board, and none of these pins or any of that stuff. Or if you didn't want to solder stuff, you could actually have an Arduino with everything with either pins or you know, enough of these. So let's say that I had this soldered to this, okay? Should be enough connectors. That soldered to that, that soldered to that. I would just plug them right to my Arduino. I don't even need a damn board. I mean, that, to me, makes a lot of sense. What I actually just need at this point is double-ended DuPont cables. So the only problem with that idea is that both the display and the synthesizer are on the same bus. They're sharing the bus. So let's see here. Let me get the orange wires. Let me get the green wires. So we got let's see. SDA and SCL. They're on the same bus. So you can't just plug these and plug them into that, but you could make a Y adapter pretty easily. So to ditch the circuit board and go to wires that plug on pins might be better. It just depends how you're going to mount it. How much room do you have? So you could do something kind of like this or whatever. You know, you could solder the other ends to this. I don't really trust these pins, but you could do that. And you could slip on pins onto your Arduino in the appropriate places. So if we had double-ended connectors here, we could just, if we had enough of these double-ended connectors, we could just do this whole thing here with just wires. Now, these are not as good as a soldered connection, obviously, but you could do that. You could also completely solder wires to every connection. If you get one that's not already soldered, like the ones that were supposed to come today, didn't have any of the pins on them already. What I don't want to do is I don't want to be soldering to these pins. I really don't. I'd rather have it go in a socket. So I'm just trying to kind of brainstorm a couple of different ideas. I mean, you think about it, if you can have this thing like this small, encapsulated in a piece of heat shrink with, you know, remove that, you know, a small amount of wires hanging out of it going to your three devices, your synthesizer, your display, and your encoder. I mean, that's going to take up very little space. See, because this could be anywhere you want it. But otherwise, what I want is these to be probably on a very small board right next to each other. So let's just assume that this board had the buses going the right way that we need it. I would probably do something like that, and that would be pretty cool. Because then now it's rock solid stable, and we just have to run some wires on the back of the board to go to this, and then we can run some jumpers to go to these things. So And I mean, you could literally plug everything on this board here and then wire up the back of it, you know. Or you could even make your own board and design it on PCBWay. You know, that's another thing too. Make your own board on PCBWay. Have something that looks very professional. You know, make a few of them. You know. So I'm just trying to come up with the best idea for a couple of these. But I think a board of about that length, but with them going the other direction, that would be great. I don't want these on the board. This can't go on the board anyway, because of where it's going to be, and this can't mount to the board. So you got at least two things that aren't going to mount on the board. So the way I look at it is you can either take a board, a socket, or something, or whatever. You can mount these two together, but I think that this is about all you would be putting together, except for in my VFO. It might make sense to have a board this size in my VFO with a display centered up or something, and then maybe I can like attach it to the aluminum case to keep the display centered. We're still working out all the ideas on that. Okay, so like I was saying, you probably could put a display on this board. You might even be able to put the encoder on it and then just mount it like there. You see what I'm saying? So for this, it might actually be pretty good. You could drill 4 holes and put standoffs, and it would hold the board there. That would be kind of neat. Or I don't know about the center part, but I guess because I think the encoder might clear. Let me try that really quick. Yeah, here's the problem with most of these. The shaft is so small. So if you put it in there centered up, you could just mount the board on the sides. So that's what I would do with this one. I would probably... I still might not do it that way. I don't know. I feel like it would probably be easier to just actually do something different. The reason I was thinking to put the board to the front was because to keep a display centered up, there's nowhere to mount a display. But if the display... Let me pull these out of here. If the display was on a board, you could have your board and your display behind here and just get the right amount of washers. Oh, look at that. So basically, you see how that fits perfect? So then you just drill holes and the board would keep the display where you wanted it. So how many... I don't know if anybody makes a display that size, but the other thing too is I can 3D print something that will sit behind here and then make a trim ring to just bring it down a size. So like if you could even, put a display that small in here and just put it in the center and just put a skirt around it. I don't know what you want to call it. It's like they do with a VFO. They put that thing around it. That's how this one was. It wasn't wide open like that. They had like a plastic thing that went around it, and it had, some dial like that, And what they usually call it a VFO mask. I don't know. Anyway, so that's one of the other options I was thinking of, but I've got more questions than I've got answers at this point, so I'm not really sure what the hell to do now. But the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put this back together, and I'm going to hook up that, and I'm going to make some tests and get this thing programmed to where it'll work for that. And then when the other ones show up, I'll figure out these radios. So for now, I've got some stuff to play with, and I'm gonna need to clear the bench so that I can work on this radio here and set it up to accept the signal. So I'll catch you guys in the next video when I probably demonstrate the VFO.